G'day, I'm Bruce, and in this video I'm going to try and get this old army truck running and driving. There's a shot looking inside, powered by a 6354 Perkins. This one here is a dump truck version, but commonly referred to in Australia as a tipper. Built by International Harvester, and these were used by the Australian Army in the 60s, 70s and 80s. The last time we were here, we couldn't fit our batteries inside because they were just too big. So this time we've got some batteries that are a bit smaller. And we did actually rig it up on 24 volts and started on 24 volts. But we're still a bit unsure whether it is a 12 volt system or a 24 volt system. Last time it definitely would not start on 12. I'll just check the oil too. I did change the oil in the previous video. Have a look there now, it stayed fairly clean on the stick. We did change the filter as well. Put a Donaldson filter on it. Should check the radiator again. Yep, radiator's still full of water. This tyre's going to need some air too, and this truck was out west and it's been moved here to this location. From what we can understand, it was sitting for about 10 years. We've got very limited information about this truck, but the tyres must have been good enough to get it on and off the truck to this location. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that they might hold some air. I've just got this Abra net here on this copper pipe. I'll just give these a bit more of a rub. Right, another job done. These batteries are a bit smaller than what we normally use. I'm just going to get the cameraman to lift them up into place. I'm just going to try it on 12 volts this time and see how it goes on 12. Last time when we first had a go at starting it, it wouldn't look like starting on 12. So we put 24 into it and it did start on 24. But because it was sitting for that long, I thought, well, maybe this time it might start on 12. But when you look in there, the way the arrangement is, it looks like it's probably been set up for a 12 volt battery because it had a block of wood in there beside its previous battery. So I'm just going to try on 12 and see what happens. That was a block of wood they had sitting in the beside there like that. So there's no way you're going to put a couple of N70Zs in there, or around in our area they call them cane batteries. They call them 86s, which are similar to N70Zs but slightly bigger. So there's just no way this truck could have taken them. Doing these videos, sometimes we carry as many as 3 hammers around for different sorts of jobs, but that's the tiniest one I've got. It's a real little pixie hammer, especially good for tapping on battery terminals if they're going to be too tight. It's got to be one of these. That's the one. Isn't that always the way? One terminal's different to the other one. I've struck that through my whole life. You'll have a car or something. I'll try and keep it that way a bit. I might get its old block of wood and drop down in there. Most times these old trucks, the fuel tanks are empty or down to nearly nothing. This truck, the tanks are full, which is very unusual, but they're pretty well made the way they've got this idea. I suppose if there's a war going on, they can just get a jerry can or whatever they got and just tip the fuel straight in. That's a wonderful idea with that strainer in the end there. Look in there, full of diesel. It's just amazing. First time ever we've come across a full diesel tank. Both tanks are full. That always goes to the bottom. They've got the Pixie little breather on here, so if you're driving through deep water, I suppose you turn that off while you drive through the water and then open it back up again. Obviously that's probably their vent. I'll just check the front one. Yep, it's still full too. You never know, some people always feel the need to come and use other people's fuel, but where it is here in the bush, I don't think anybody would be inclined to come here and try and milk the tank. We've got fuel, we've got oil, we've got water, we've got one battery in there, so we'll go and give it a try and see if it's going to start on 12 volt. Not the easiest thing to get into. This truck's had a later model Perkins engine put in it. Fair bit newer than what the other old style ones are. This one has an electronic cut-off on the pump, on the injector pump to shut the engine down, whereas nearly all the other old ones we've worked on, they just have a wire or whatever, a cable we'll say, to stop them. And this one here, we've got the start button up here, push button, we've got the stop button there beside it, which is a pretty simple setup. Not much else I can say about it, but we're getting ready to give it a go. I'll just check on my neutral. Righto, I'm in neutral. On. Throttle. No, it's got to be 24 volts. It's never going to start on 12. We'll go and hook up a second battery. Cables. Well, that was a fight to get that off. Is that still tight? Yeah, it is. Second battery coming up. I'm still a bit sceptical about a truck this size only having small batteries like that, but I suppose if the battery box is only that size, well, that's all we can use. Put that loose. That's a bit of a bodgy terminal, that one. Wonder should I take that off and put another terminal on. I've said in the previous video, I don't like the idea of that wing nut sticking up that high. I don't know whether they had low style batteries or what, but I'll get these other leads off out the way. I'll give this a bit of a touch with the Abranet. That one looks pretty good. See if I can get that sitting on about the right angle. That's a much better fit. Much better. Might just move this wire around that way a little bit. Right, it's tight. $13. I'd say it's probably quarter Whitworth. I know it looks close here, but it is up against the edge, so I don't think it'll touch. No, I think there's a ridge along the back there anyway to stop it going right back. This battery was pulled out of a car and put on the charger this morning. The car had been sitting for a fair while, so they only had a small amount of time on the charger this morning. So we might still need to hook up our other batteries and use a jumper lead yet. I'm sure every one we've got's a different size, but we should be getting closer. Right, I'll give that a try. I'll just set that block of wood back in there. Yep, looks like it's going to fit in there. The Australian Army, they must have been fairly tough to get in and out of these things. They got a big rib running along there, which is really hard on your knees. Neutral, on. Yep, either way. Well, all these old Perkinses always seem to smell the same. This one smells a bit worse because it's running on that old diesel, and I suppose the air's a bit heavy now because it's autumn and it's starting to cool off in Australia. So yeah, she smells a bit out the exhaust. We just let it idle for a while here now to build up the air pressure, and we've also got a bit of an issue with the throttle linkage where the throttle pedals come off the linkage. You can see here the ball has come off the pedal plate. Righto, the cameraman's got that hook back up again. Well, we've only got a very small 12-volt pump, so we've got it all hooked up there now, so here goes. The old exhaust fumes are pretty bad standing there, so we thought we might move away a bit. We also don't want to be standing near that tyre, it looks pretty bad. We might stick a little bit more air in, but not too much. But if I don't pump it up a fair way, it's going to be really heavy on the steering. Well, it's holding air, but it's certainly not a very nice tyre. Yep, it's definitely coming up. We just turned the engine off. We were choking on diesel fumes down here today. There's no wind here at all today. We stopped it, but that was a mistake because we tried to start again, it wouldn't do it. So we had to get one of our big batteries and put from this battery to the other grey battery. That might do it. I don't want to give them too much pressure, they might just blow out. I think this truck's been retrofitted with possibly a crate engine, which is a brand new engine in my eyes anyway. Just the way it runs, you cannot hear any piston rattle or gudgeon rattle. Can't hear the tappets rattling. Everything's just running just like a brand new engine, I'd say. Well, the tyre's pumped up. That's a good sign if we're going to drive it out of here. We'll just have a bit of a look at the master cylinders now and see if we can pour a bit more brake fluid into the master cylinders. I'm just going to try and get the lid off the master cylinder. These trucks had two master cylinders on them, one on either side. And our friend Daniel told us that the one on this side, this is if I can remember rightly, the one on this side probably did the front brake here and the back brake's over there. The one on the other side did the opposite, did that front wheel and these wheels on this side. It was a while ago when he told me, so it was something like that. Baby's toothbrush. Flick a bit of that dust off. For jobs like this, you really need single hex socket to get the best chance of getting it undone. It could be easier, it could be hard. Oh, look at that. If it was a truck that lived on the coast, we'd probably have to heat it up. We'd probably have to do all sorts of things to try and let it go, but make it let go, but it just let go easily. I probably could have nearly undone it by hand. Now that I've cracked it, I'll just give it one more final brush, tighten it back down a bit. so we don't drop dirt into the system. I think from memory too, I think these had a little breather hole on the side of the lid. No, unless it's there, I can't see it. One of the other Accos that we had a pinhole on the side. I think that's it there. For the cameraman, I don't know whether you can see that little hole just on the side there. I'll give it a little bit of a brush. Where am I? Yeah, there it is. Don't know whether you can see it. There's a little tiny hole just there. That's the breather for the master cylinder, that little tiny hole. The cameraman's having a look down inside to see if he can see any liquid. The other trap with things like this, sitting for that long, the moment you apply the brakes, if that's dry or it's all gone congealed inside, the piston might just stick, the piston might not return. But if you put brake fluid in there and let it soak into whatever's left in there, that might be enough to free it up. So if you do just try the brakes, that might release. Here goes the brake fluid. There we are, we can see the liquid there now. I'll dip it with this bit of clean grass. It's liquid, but it looks pretty dirty. We'll put the lid on this one here, and then we'll go around the other side. Not very tight. Away we go. This side might be a different story. This one's been out on the weather a bit more so. That's right, come undone. I'll just give it another brush. Nice and clean. This one will be easy to look into, if the cameraman can look in there. Well, there's definitely something in there. The cameraman said this one's nearly full. You can see there now, it's just about right to the top of the reservoir. Not so tight. We'll check the clutch master cylinder. Rightio. Looks like the vent out the side. If you look here, you can see where this big iron bark tree here was struck by lightning, and all these big limbs have come down. Where it is there now, it's sort of trapped, and we thought, well, maybe we might be able to drive over through here, but when you have a look around through the bush here, you can see there's stumps and trees, stuff in the way. These old trucks have a terrible turning circle. They need about an acre to turn around on. So if we tried to drive up through there and around over here in between those stumps, I don't think we'd make it by the time we got back up. So probably still the easiest way is to try and shift that stuff in front of it. It would be good if we could work out how the winch on the thing works and get the winch to work, we'd be able to pull the wire out through a pulley block up here and try and pull that stuff out the way in front of it. It's got a multitude of gear levers and different levers in here to operate the winch. I would say the winch would be operated from inside the cab here. Here we've got the tailgate lock for the dump bed. It's got a gear lever there. It's got another lever here which might work the transfer case. Another lever over here. It's got a little lockout on it, so maybe it's something to do with the winch. That's also probably something to do with the winch too. It feels like it's pretty seized up, that one. This one here could probably have a little bit put on it too, probably. This here is to do with the winch clutch. It looks like down is to disengage. Everything looks pretty dry around that part. It is stiff. Maybe it's meant to be stiff. I wonder, is that the free spool for the winch? There would have been instructions here, but they're long gone, unfortunately. Or are they? There are some instructions here about the winch, but they're again very hard to read. That stiff lever is running along the top of the gearbox, and it goes back and it comes back here into the transfer case here. So obviously that might be the one that actually engages the that small tail shaft there, which goes over to drive the winch. I think the PTO for the winch must be locked out with that bolt behind the lever, and the other lever up there is the one that actually engages a hydraulic pump. I think that lever there is the one that I think when you go to lift the back up. They're all set where they were, the levers. I've had a look around underneath, and I've had the cameraman up inside working some of these levers, and from what I can gather, it looks like the PTO lever to work the winch has been locked out. It looks like it's got a bolt here to lock it out so it can't be used. I'm going to start it back up, and then I'm just going to see whether the clutch is seized or not. I haven't even tried the clutch. I'll try it there now. We've had the ACO experience before where we were ready to try the clutch and it blew the line. Then we fixed up part of the line and then it blew another part of the clutch line. I can see it moving. The slave cylinder lever's moving, so it's got a very heavy clutch in it. So I'll start it up and just see if I can get it into gear, see whether the clutch will release properly, and see if I can just get it to try and go forward a little bit. So it's going to work now. looks like it's trying to move anyway. PTO winches can be very dangerous. Many years ago, my mate Sid, he had an old G60 Nissan, and he came around especially to see me to show me this winch he'd just fitted. Had it so it was driven off the side of the, I can't remember, it was driven off the side of the gearbox or driven off the side of the transfer case. But anyway, he went to a lot of trouble. He had a steel bull bar, proper winch bull bar and everything, all rigged up. And I had this fairly steep hill on the property I used to live on about 40 years ago. So anyway, we found a tree up on top to hook up to, ran the winch wire out and everything was nicely made up the way he had everything rigged up. So anyway, he tried the old G60 in first gear and it was that slow but powerful, and then second gear, then third gear. And so that gave the winch 3 speeds. So anyway, he had a bit more of a talk about the winch and he said, oh well, I've got to get going now, I'll see you later. And I said, okay Sid, catch you later. Next time I saw him about a week later, he said, oh, did I do some damage? I said, what'd you do? He said, I thought I had the winch disengaged and I didn't. He said, I drove up the road and you ought to see what I did to my steel bull bar and everything. He said, it just wrecked everything on the front of my vehicle. And he said, boy, are they dangerous, or they are strong. He said, I never even realised it was doing the damage until I saw all the bull bar and everything shaking. I thought, oh gee, what's happening now? So I'm a bit nervous about trying to engage the PTO winch here to try and see if we could winch some of that stuff out the way until I really know how it works. Or it would be nice to have an owner's manual or one of these to show you exactly what everything does and what the procedure would be to engage the PTO winch. So the way it is here, either half the linkages are either rusted up or they're locked out. There's a bolt there that behind the one lever that I think might be the PTO lever, and I don't know whether that's from the factory or not, or whether somebody's put this bolt in there so if anybody just jumps in and just pulls this lever, that they don't just start winching. And if the winch wire's out the front there with the thimble on it, imagine trying to pull that right back through all the thing, wouldn't it do some damage? So I'm just not going to have a crack at it today. I'll get a bit of this stuff out the way. And I'll get a wire rope and we'll get the old GU Nissan down here and see if we can pull that bigger stuff out the way. Yeah, in the first video we just bumped this one, it just fell over. But there's a lot of termites around here. You can see where the termites are. The termites are turning them back to dirt. The termites will do the same thing if they get into your house and you've got a house with timber in it. That's the worst thing that can possibly happen. If the white ants or the termites move in and they start off inside the walls and all the cavities, and if you don't know they're in there, and all of a sudden one day someone walks up to a light switch and they just go like that and the hand just goes through the wall, and they think, wow, what's this? Next thing their house is ruined. White ants are the very worst thing you can possibly have with houses. This is hardwood, and I'll start off on the outside. They'll eat the sap first because that's the softest. And they can eat into hardwood. But of course, white ants will eat pine before they'll eat ironbark or any of those other hardwoods. Can you see the white ants there? That's a white ant, termite. You can see the termites, there's another one there. Now see how the black ants or brown ants, they're attacking the white ants. So the white ants have always got to have cavities that are sort of sealed up so the brown ants can't get into them. See the white ant there, or termite? Here's another one. Well, that's a brown ant, but they would have been eating into the side of this piece of timber here. And the brown ants are there all the time trying to attack the white ants. So some people say if you have brown ants in your house, it's probably not such a bad thing, but because they might eat the white ants. No, they've disappeared again. Well, we've got 4 pieces here, but I could probably drive around those 2. But certainly can't drive around this one, so we might go and get some winch wire and a pulley and the old Nissan Patrol and see if we can yank all this stuff out the way. What we're going to do, we're going to put a pulley block on that old stump over there. running through the wire rope, put the wire rope through the pulley block, hook onto this tree top here, and as we get the old Nissan and drive up the bit of a track there, we'll just pull all that stuff over off the track away from the front of the Acco. We've just got to get our pulley block now and put on here, run the wire rope through the pulley block over to the back of the Nissan, run the other end of the wire rope over and hook onto that old tree top, and away we go. We don't know where the stump will be, how solid it'll be, but we'll give it a go. If it pulls us out the ground, we'll just move over to that tree, put a tree protector around the base of the tree and work off it. These later model pulley blocks are a lot better than the old ones where you used to have to pull split pins out and pull other pins out. And then if your thimble was too big, that's the thimble, that piece in the middle here. If the thimble was too big, then you couldn't slide it through after you pull the wheel out. They had pins here and the bolts through here, and this is a much simpler idea. Run that through there like that. The D-shackle's a bit of an overkill. Here we go. We'll have to make up the difference with a bit of chain. We've got a couple of chains here. Righto, that's all hooked up now, so I'll jump in the Nissan and see what it's going to do. Just pulled it out of the way like a hot knife through butter. Well, it looks like it ran right to the end, but it didn't do any damage and was enough to jerk the old Nissan Patrol around sideways a bit when it comes to the end, but the Nissan can take it. I might be able to just leave that on and just drag the lot back over. I'm going to do what my nephew does for a living. He has a business cutting trees down and snigging logs, and he still uses chains. He used to have a proper skidder, but he went back to chains. For some reason he thought the chains were still better than having a grapple skidder. But just imagine every day trying to get the chains through under the log. Especially if you can't move the log around. If you had a crowbar here, I could probably move him a bit. Put that over there. So I've got the maximum amount of chain ready to go underneath. They call that a slip hook, and they call this one a grab hook. I'll pull this back a bit more. There we are, now we're right. Yeah, so the grab hook won't slip on the chain, obviously. The slip hook will slip on the chain, so obviously as we pull everything up a bit tighter, everything will get pulled closer together, hopefully. That should sit there and we're right to go. Well, that was pretty easy done. When I do things like that, I often think how hard it must have been for the old timers, people like my grandfather, who only had draft horses. Everything he would have done, ploughing, clearing, anything at all on the land would have all been done with horses. Now you just turn a key, run the wire rope out, 4-wheel drive, away you go. That's wedged in there pretty tight. Well, that'll be a job where I'll have to pull a pin out here. I'll have to knock the circlip off there to get that apart, to get that out. This has already been bent up once with my Ford tractor. One time the wire rope did exactly the same thing. Got in behind the pulley, did the same thing. I had to get one of my other friends to try and press all that back right again. But it was pretty loose. Everything in there was stretched pretty well. Right, that is here. Well, the stump was stronger than what it looked. It'll be some sort of iron bark when you look around here. Rightio. I might as well take that right off. Open the back up and get the wire rope back. I think I'll just get the Nissan Patrol and hook onto that and pull it out. Deshackle. Track's nice and clear now. I'll jump in and start her up and see if I can drive her out of here. Here we go. Here goes nothing. See if it's going to start. Away. Well, that's a success. It did start and it did drive under its own power. If there's anyone out there that would have a manual to suit one of these, I would be eternally grateful to you if you could send me off one on an email. Then I might be able to do some work on the brakes, get the tipper working, and maybe even get the PTO winch to work. If you've had anything to do with these old International Army trucks, leave a comment below. It's always interesting to hear other people's stories. That'll be about it for this video, so until next time, thanks very much for watching.